Liam Delap to Chelsea Football Club for £30 million. That's not bad living. Release clauses are lovely. Now, why are we here? That's a question that I'm going to answer. And I'm going to go through the layers of logic as to how I feel about the player, how I feel about the signing in general in terms of our attack that we're building, and the factors that kind of will play a part as to how content or how happy, sad I will feel towards the end of this window. And yeah, let's get into it. There's a lot to get into. And I want to start with why this has happened. Because once you understand why, then you might understand where we are going. Now, think of this as a book of contacts in your network, right? You've got a book of people that you know, you trust, and they know you and they trust you. Now, Manchester City is a football club that we have almost combined Cobham with the PL2 team of Man City of 3-4 years ago. You look at Lavia, you look at Tosin, you look at Sancho, you look at Cole Palmer, you look at the interested names that we're going for or have tried to go for in Gittins, in, O'Reilly, McAtee, Oscar Bob, I think, was even linked at one point. And now, of course, Liam Delap. That's a lot of players from the same club. Joe Shields and Maresca was also at that club. So from a kind of historical standpoint, recent history, it does make a lot of sense. And also the Club World Cup coming up, we need a striker to add to Jackson right now for that competition, because as we saw in the final of the Conference League, which I was at, Jackson, that hit your chest, brother. I was celebrating thinking that hit your head. No, it hit your chest. Cole Palmer perfectly placed that football onto your chest so it would go in, and we all saw the heavy touch on the counter. We ain't got time to waste. If we're going to be going up against Real Madrid's and Atleticos and all sorts, we need someone to come in. Not saying it was going to ever be the guy, main man. We'll see if that is the case or not, depending maybe even on the shirt number that he gets. You know, if you give Liam Delap the number 9, that probably tells us that he is the big name striker that's coming through the door. If the 19 is available, then maybe not. So for me, there's so many reasons to why I don't feel overly excited, but I'm not angry or upset. I'm very calm, collected on this transfer happening, because the window's still young and we don't know what we're going to do around this to either make it better or worse. Make no mistake, I like the player. It's just the player is still developing, is still improving. So you have to factor in that also when we talk about him. But I'm going to talk about him. And what I am going to say when I talk about him is that there's some things I like and there's some things that he needs to work on, as with many young strikers. And he wasn't my first choice. So it's not now he's signed, I'm suddenly going to tell you, oh, he was my first choice. I loved him. I wanted him. I wanted Osimhen. I wanted Osimhen because in the air, we know what we're getting. He's going to attack that ball like his life depends on it. And he knows what he's doing when it hits his forehead. And I can't say the same for Liam Delap just yet, because he's not scoring headers. He's trying. And he's definitely up for the fight, and he's looking to make contact with the ball when it's up in the air, if it ever is crossed to him, but it's not a strength of his. And that's a massive weakness of ours in open play and in, set plays. So for me, with Liam Delap, we're looking at a player that intangibles are there. The fight, the spirit, the aggression, the willingness to run in behind, the willingness to get close contact with defenders and roll them and shuffle, and this is all good things. This is Diego Costa for some of you, these type of intangibles, these type of attributes. And we saw with the penalty that he won against us in the league, he's a bit of a liar as well. He's a bit of a shithouse. He's a bit of a conniving kid. And I am not against it. We need more of those cucarays. We need more of those intangibles, more of those nasty dark arts. So I welcome that as well. That's a very welcome trait that he's bringing to the side, that grit between his teeth. Now, as an actual striker, how do I feel about him? Well, I feel that there's a lot to improve in terms of his ball striking ability and his obviously aerial ability. He's clearly going to be better than Jackson in terms of cutbacks, because he's actually a striker. He's played it in the youth days coming through the academy. So just getting a striker, so Jackson isn't the only one, and it's not Guiu, and it's not Nkuku misprofiled, and it's not George. It's actually a striker. Guaranteed already, we've improved our team. Just from this signing alone, we've improved our team. But although the cutbacks, he will be there. right? He'll read things better than Jackson. Anticipation will be better. He'll make those runs off the shoulder of defenders, and I'm hoping he'll time his runs better than Jackson in terms of not being offside. Aerially, we're still weak. Don't think that you can put loads of crazy crosses into this kid and he's just going to put them all into the back of the net. This is not Victor Osimhen, right? And also, not only that, but also this is a kid that stylistically I'm a little bit concerned, or I've got queries and questions as to how this fits, because just because you know Maresca and you have a relationship previously with him, it doesn't necessarily mean that the way we're playing or the way we've watched Maresca play this season necessarily suits you perfectly. So if I was going through young strikers that are more realistic targets outside of Osimhen or Gyökeres that I would have wanted at Chelsea and kind of prioritized and listed, I would like to almost put Ekitike at the top with Delap and then Sesko at the bottom, and I would link Ekitike to Isak. I would link Delap maybe more to Gyökeres, and I'd link maybe Sesko more to Osimhen. Not saying that these players are at all the same level of quality or exactly the same stylistically, but I link them to those players like that because of some things that I'm watching from said players. Ekitike, incredible close control and ball control and kind of manipulation of getting in between players and dribbling and carrying and just easy on the eye. Isak, right? Possession-based team, I think they would absolutely rock it. And the way that we're moving in terms of Maresca, we keep the ball, we're very safe with it sometimes, and we want to kind of keep it and dominate and put teams in their half. That makes sense for Ekitike, stylistically closer to Jackson, Isak closer, these things. And he also said he wanted a striker that was stylistically close to Jackson. So I'm trying to put all these things together. And then when I go to Delap, I'm like, you're not really the same as these guys. So which one is it? Because I know that the manager knows you and I know the manager rates you, but at the same time, you're not what the manager publicly stated he wanted in Jackson, having the same but just better. You are a player that looks like chaos would be something you'd like to consume. You look like a player where you would like some transitions. You would like, you know, a little bit more direct football. I'm not even saying counter-attacking, but just for us to be more direct in terms of when I watch Delap, it is get the ball to him quickly. Get the ball to him in a bit of, you know, in the channel or in a bit of space. He'll hold it up. He'll make the run down the line. How does he look in a low block when things are really maybe slower or more methodical and he's just kind of got to shuffle in between the 6-yard box from corner to corner, at pillar to pillar, and kind of find those sharp little instinctive little movements to kind of get away from someone? That's going to be really interesting. That just is going to be really interesting because he's coming from Ipswich to Chelsea. It's a massive jump. In my head, I would have actually had him going to someone like Brentford to replace like an Mbeumo or a Wissa. Fee wise, you're making profit if you're Brentford, and also stylistically, I think it's closer to him. You know, it's a nice gradual step up and he's getting the regular game time. Will he get that here? That depends on what we're doing outside of this signing. So that brings me on to my mood. Like I said, with him as a striker, I don't think his shooting ability is necessarily throwing it into the corners like just Harry Kane-esque. I would actually compare him more to like a Jamie Vardy. When I watch him, he kind of puts his foot through the ball, hits it with a lot of power, and hits it with a lot of conviction, but I wouldn't say as a finisher he's picking corners, side nettings. He's not there yet. And like I said, aerially, I've said what I've said. So this is a player that expectation-wise, I'm thinking, okay, maybe 15 goals, but I'm not going to 20, 25 goals, which is what Premier League title-winning teams probably will need, most likely need, right? Unless you're adding ridiculous goal-scoring threats off the flank. And this brings me to my next point. If you are going to somehow bring in a Rodrigo, which you're not most likely, but if you're going to bring in an A-grade superstar left winger, then this helps a lot with the signing of Delap and potentially the keeping of Jackson. Because now I know, okay, we've got two young strikers up front that I'm not expecting 20 plus goals from, and I'm not expecting them to mentally handle the pressure of leading Chelsea to a title, or at least even compete for a title. However, you're giving me a forward that on the flank will get the goals and will potentially, you know, give us the goals that we're lacking if these guys go out of form. And that would also depend on Maresca allowing this said left winger to be an inside forward and get into goal scoring positions and not hug the touchline. And stylistically, that isn't systematically what we do. So it makes it even more important that the striker in the middle needs to be clinical, needs to be great in the air, needs to be someone that gets 20 to 25 goals, because the wingers aren't necessarily not really in this team to be goal scoring wingers. You see what I'm saying? So basically, in a roundabout way, who are you adding in with Delap is going to kind of determine how I feel about this signing. Because I like the player, but I don't think the player is ready to be what I need him to be. And I would have him as a second choice to someone else coming in, like an Osimhen. And that means Jackson would have to be sold, which I don't know if is even on the table. I don't know if that's something that they're interested in doing, but that's something that you'd need to do to have enough goals in the middle of the attack, in my opinion, because Jackson obviously put up 10 goals in the Premier League. That's just not good enough this season. He hasn't kicked on. Not saying that these guys won't kick on and improve and do all these things, but we're talking 2 years, 3 years, potentially, when Delap is now fully fleshed and ready to be a 20 plus goal scoring striker for Chelsea in the Premier League. That's 2-3 years potentially without Premier League's titles. So this is depends what direction you're going in and where you want to be patient and where you don't. But striker and goalkeeper are the two positions where you kind of need killers, in my opinion. And this is the spine that we're talking about, that I want a serious spine. Lastly, it also depends on the business others do. If Arsenal are going to sign Sesko, that makes me feel better, because I know Sesko's not ready either. So now it's like young gunman for young gunman. If someone signs Osimhen, Liverpool, right, or Arsenal, that makes me feel worse about Delap, because I know that we can't bring a plastic knife into a gunfight. You see what I'm saying? If Ikitike comes in for Chelsea alongside Delap, I automatically feel better, because now I know I've got someone that I have higher in my pecking order, and stylistically I think it fits us really well in terms of the way we play. But also we've also got a bit of Premier League experience with Delap, and he knows the manager and he knows Palmer, so they could have some chemistry from PL2. So now we've got a really nice variety between technicality and intangibles, Premier League experience, young strikers. But if you can't get big high wage earners like Osimhen and Gyökeres or whatever, this is like the next best case scenario. You got both. You leave them with both. So left wing, like I said, you could get Rodrigo, or you could extend and sign permanently Sancho. Sancho, if you sign him and you only bring him and Delap into this attack plus a unpredictable Esteval, that for me will be an underwhelming attack. But if you bring in, I don't know, just putting out names, Leao, Barcola, Rodrigo on the left wing, then that changes everything again. If you bring Sancho in as a second choice depth player, but you actually bring in an A-grade star left winger, I'll feel a lot better. So this is where I'm at, and this is my roundabout way of saying that let's see what happens next. He's a very good player, Delap. In terms of his potential, he could be great, but he's not ready just yet to shoulder the burden, in my opinion, from what I've seen in his finishing and his heading, and even stylistically, like I said, he's not ready to take Chelsea to the level I'm trying to get us to next season, for me. So let's see. But it's a good one to get banked in, early. It's a good deal to get done early, as long as we plan to kick on and to improve and to bring in bigger, better in the attack. Then this is a really good starting point. That's how I feel. But you guys, let me know how you feel in the comments down below. And listen, I'm sure it's going to be a very busy summer, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of players in and out the door, as there has to be, especially out. So we got a lot more to discuss as the weeks and months go on. But until next time, big up your damn selves. In a bit, people. Peace.